each want to thank each and every one of you for being with us, and hopefully if we can collect as many as we can in the community to be a part of this, because I think each of us who are on the call will be certainly enlightened and made more abreast of the things that are being discussed or being possibility of things happening here on Indian Head Highway and the Indian Head Highway community. So I'm excited for tonight, and I hope you will be as well, to be able to that we can all come together to once again just be brought to a higher level of awareness of things that are happening out front and behind the scenes in the Indian Head Highway community regarding this this most acclaimed road in one way or the other, Indian Head Highway 210. Again, I'd like to thank all our presenters who are here. I think some may still be on the way. I'm not sure if I have an officer from Major Mitchell District 7's police station. If you are on board, Major Mitchell, can you give a shout out to let me know if you're here? Major Mitchell from District 7. Does not appear to be the case. What we normally do, we have Major Mitchell to start off our presentations for what the District 7 Prince George's County Police Station has done in the previous 30 days in terms of their enforcement numbers, the things that we all need to be abreast of in terms of their actions out on the road. I know this being a holiday, I have not discussed with him ahead of time his participation here tonight, but I know he would be here if he could. But what I would like to give you instead are some numbers that are come from the last speed camera report that I've been able to get my hands on, to at least give our audience a little bit of ideas of what's happening on Indian Head Highway in terms of the 3 speed cameras that are active at this time. Now, for most of you, you know that we as a committee were instrumental in being able to get, my way of passage of legislations, 3 additional speed cameras for a total of 6 to be utilized on the Indian Head Highway. I have not heard as of this day if these other additional cameras will be activated in any time in the near future. Is more or less in the hands of the Prince George's County Police Department, to their discretion, where they would be placed, when they would be placed, how they would be coming on board. Again, Major Mitchell, are you with us? I guess not. I thought he had come on board. Getting back to what I was saying, the cameras we're somewhat in the dark in terms of what's going to happen to the 3 additional cameras. But what I want to give you is what I have for the 3 cameras that are in place. As most of you know who've been a part of this this meeting, we have had a lot of issues regarding the proficiency issues regarding the speed cameras that are in place, the 3 cameras that are in place. And what I'm going to give you tonight is somewhat indicative of how we are really struggling, wrestling with trying to get a handle of why the numbers of what the contractor who is giving the reports for these cameras, why are the numbers so skewed from what seemingly is one reality, but the cameras and the number of citations are showing something quite different in terms of what they're reporting. You will understand what I'm about to, what I'm saying when I give you reflection of these numbers. So the 3 additional cameras we have, I won't go into their locations. The ones that, I mean, I'm sorry, not the additional cameras, the 3 presiding cameras that we have, it's just unbelievable how far they have gone down in terms of the numbers. I see someone has come on the screen. It looks like a police officer. Sir, are you here for Major Mitchell?
Hold on 1 second. Let me make sure I'm back on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
okay, yes. How you doing?
Okay. Are you from District 7?
Yes.
Okay. I was about to give the camera report. I can hold that off for a moment because what we normally do, we have your district come on first. Yeah, you kind of set the tone in terms of your reporting for, and I'm assuming that's what you're about to do in his stead, Major Mitchell stead, to give a report of the District 7 enforcement report for the last 30 days. Is that
Yeah, I have some numbers. Yes.
okay? I'm sorry, forgive me for not knowing your name. I wasn't giving any this information about Major Mitchell that he would have someone instead. So can you, I hate to do things in an awkward kind of position, but can you introduce yourself and then kind of go from there for what you have to report? And we'll take it all in. We're
Okay.
all community family here, but I'll just give you the platform and you can kind of report as you see your numbers to be given to us.
Yeah, I'm Lieutenant Ferguson. And I'm down
Okay.
here at Division 7 and working with Major Mitchell.
Okay. Okay, well, Lieutenant, thank you so much. And listen, we what we do is we just give you the podium, the platform to kind of give us, the audience here, what you have in terms of reporting of your latest numbers.
All right, let's see. Well, to start off, traffic stops, 652 traffic
Okay.
stops. Now we're
Okay.
coming from January until the 17th.
Okay,
All right, 652. Moving, which are citations,
Mhm.
233.
Okay,
All right, warnings, 1,050.
okay.
Safety equipment repair orders,
Mhm.
that's going to be 92.
Okay.
So total citations, we're looking at 1,375.
Okay. Okay. Lieutenant, can you elaborate on anything that you would like to, that's outstanding to you for the last 30 days or over the brevity of time that you're reporting? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, the guys and gals are out there 24/7.
Okay.
And they're working, they're on 210,
Mhm.
they're working. But everybody has to keep in mind, you can't be in two places at one time.
Yes.
You can have one person stopped, 5 other people will see it and zoom right by you.
Yes.
You can't stop everybody.
True
So we'll have multiple officers out there as a safety issue,
that. Mhm.
but a lot of people have to realize you can't be in two places at one time,
Okay.
which doesn't work in our favor. So you'll
Mhm.
have one stop, but then someone would zoom right by you.
Yes.
So they take advantage of that. But the officers, the gals and girls, they out there 24/7. So they are doing a lot. They're doing a lot with what we have. They're doing a lot. And that's in conjunction with the calls for service that we normally have 24/7.
Okay. Do you have any information, as you know, we have 3 additional speed cameras that have been given to your usage
Right.
for Indiana Highway. Do you have anything you can give us in terms of when they will come on board? Will they be coming on board, or anything that you can elaborate on the status of these additional cameras?
That information they don't give us in patrol, but I do have something. Captain Jason Smith,
Mhm.
I don't know if you know
Yes,
or
I
aware
know.
of that
Yeah,
name,
sure. Yes.
from automated enforcement. That is the person to contact in reference to that.
Okay.
Now, they are in charge of that. We'll know after it's done, but we won't get any information ahead of time.
Okay.
That is the good contact for that information because they're on top of it.
Okay. Okay. Well, we thank you for what you are doing. My understanding, you do not have a dedicated person for traffic at this time, but you,
Well, the dedicated people we have for traffic is within our special operations division.
okay,
They are dedicated for traffic, the traffic enforcement unit.
okay,
Very good unit, very good unit.
okay,
But, to answer your question, they are dedicated for that.
okay. So no one in-house, in other words, there's not a section of police dedicated within the 7th district itself
No,
to that
no,
end.
they don't. At one time, years ago, probably when I first came on, they
Mhm.
had people like that.
Okay,
But as time went on, most of those people went to or got assigned to Special Operations Division as a
okay,
unit. They're there, but they're under SOD, Special
okay,
Operations Division, under the Traffic Enforcement Unit.
okay,
Now, for you guys, there's nothing stopping you from having a meeting with their command
mhm,
in reference to your question.
okay,
They are there, but they're in SOD. They're not assigned to Division 7.
right, I got you. Okay,
Now, we have them all over the county for sure.
okay,
But, to answer your question better, you would probably want a meeting with one of the personnel from SOD in reference to the traffic enforcement unit.
okay, got you.
So
Okay,
that's an option for you.
okay. We did had a running contact with Captain Smith, but we're trying to once again reestablish that
Oh yeah,
contact so we can get some information about the cameras,
yes.
and also if there's availability from SOD to put some dedicated officers on Indian Head Highway, we certainly like that as well.
Right. Now, when were you last active on that?
On that being what? The SOD?
Talking to SOD in reference to getting someone down here.
Have not. No, that's not something we have been, we were working actually through, with Captain Smith, basically on the camera issue.
Okay.
Okay, now in terms of, because we were not privy to, at least I was not privy personally to, going directly to SOD and asking them outright for that type of enforcement. It's not nothing that can preclude me from doing that. But that was not something that we were privy to, that the ask can come from us in order to get that type of response
Well,
directly from SOD.
well, along that line, our Major Mitchell,
Mhm.
He's a good resource in reference to that question.
Okay,
Or our Captain Martini here at Division 7,
okay,
in reference to SOD, maybe assigning someone here. They are very good resources at that. I would start there
okay,
with Captain Martini or Acting Captain Ruiz
okay,
or Major Mitchell.
okay.
They're in the know in reference to that. That's a good reference point, very good reference point.
Well, Lieutenant Ferguson, I want to thank you for that information, because that's something we can definitely, I can personally can follow up on. I didn't know we could go outside of the district itself to make that request.
Well, you always start on the inside.
Okay, well, that's what I thought,
Right, you always
you would have
start
to
on
work
the
with them
inside.
first. Yeah.
That's why I say a very good resource is Major Mitchell, Captain Martini, or Acting Captain Ruiz.
Okay,
Okay, very good resource.
okay.
I would definitely start with them, especially our major.
Well, we'll do just that, and trying to get someone dedicated, if that's what it requires, the ask coming from the inside to go force the SOD, that is not problematic. We can take care of that. But I thank you for the information you've given us tonight about the currency of the report from the District 7, but also the other information that's certainly something we can follow up on. I can follow up on personally. Thank you so much for that report.
Oh, it's not a problem at all.
Okay, I see there's a question from Joseph Trampini. I'm going to hold, Joseph, if you can hold up on the questions. We want to move ahead, and Ms. Tamara as well. We've got a kind of a stacked deck in terms of presentation. I want to get into the speed camera and information, and then we're going to move on to the next phase. I think if Peter Campanides will be after I have this brief report on the numbers for the speed camera. Again, Lieutenant Ferguson, thank you so much for that. And please stay on the call. I mean,
yes.
Please stay on the call. This is again coming from the AED. The latest I have in terms of report is the month of April. We were getting them a month behind. Now it seems to be about 2 months. But I did want to give what we have for the month of April, going from April 1 to April 30th. They're showing a total between the three cameras, a total of reads of only 417 reads, with only 20 citations given. Now, this is where, you know, we've been having this issue regarding these numbers because it's hard to find these numbers to be indicative of what's happening on Indian Highway, because the month before in March, the reads ran 1,598. Going from 1,598 to 417 is kind of hard to believe the numbers have dropped down that low. There was 112 citations given in the month of March. And then here's where it really begins to kind of show itself. In the month of February, we had 3,145 reads or possible citations, 3,145, with over 1,000 people, 1,067 getting citations. So it's kind of hard to take in that we've gone from over 3,145 in the month of February to the month of April. We dropped down to 417, 1,067 citations given in the month of February to only 20 given in the month of April. And this is where we're again struggling to try to capture what is happening with the read data with the speed cameras. Be that as it may, those are the numbers we have, and just reporting in as you know, in the raw data that's given. So we still are trying to ascertain why the numbers are in such and this, you know, it's a lot more I could say about this, but I won't take up the time for this meeting here tonight to do that. But those are the actual numbers we have for the month of April, 417 in terms of possible citations, 20 total 20 for the 30-day period, and from April 1 to April 30th, citation given. So there that is. I want to go directly to if Peter Kapanides is with us tonight. And again, I think Henry McPherson has his hand raised. We'll hold off, if you can hold off on your questions for time till we get our presentations, then we're going to have an open discussion, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions asked about everything we're doing tonight, but we have some presentations. We want to kind of roll through those first, and then we'll get to all of our questions, I assure you, after that time period. So Mr. Henry McPherson, if you can hold off on your questions, we'd appreciate that. I want to see if we have Peter Kapanides with us tonight, our state highway representative.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Peter, good evening to you. And I just want to give everyone probably knows you pretty much that comes on this call. You're the state highway representative, have been with us almost 6 years now, and we're going into our 6th year in August. And we always thank you and thank the State Highway Administration for being so diligent in being with us, a representative always with us on this call. And so we give you the platform, Peter, to let us know what are the infrastructure things that we need to know in the last 30 days that have happened, and in the forthcoming days that will happen, as best you can give us in reporting. So Peter, I'll just turn it over to you, and let you go and give us the full reports of what you have to give us tonight.
Thank you, Reverend Screen. Good evening, everyone. Happy Juneteenth. I do not have anything to report from an infrastructure standpoint. However, I guess the next person who's going to be speaking is Dr. Franz from the CAT Lab.
Yes.
I wanted to give a brief introduction, and hopefully I'm not stealing too much of Dr. Franz's thunder, but how he has gotten involved in this is that I had an idea percolating in my head about trying to figure out an engineering solution to slowing traffic down along the stretch of Maryland 210, particularly between the Charles County line and Maryland 228. It's a 4-lane section, and pardon me, I had the idea of putting in quick curb and flex posts on both the yellow and the white edge lines, in short segments, but they would be spaced out a certain way to encourage motorists to condition themselves to drive closer to the posted speed limit.
Mhm.
Now, State Highway Administration is pursuing a research project to first of all determine if there are any locations around the country that where a situation like this exists, and what kind of treatments were done, if any, at those locations to try and get speeds under control. So so part of the first part of this research project is that research and to measure the what the current speeds are. Then in the early fall, sometime in the fall, I'll say sometime in the fall, we would be implementing the treatments, and there would be a series of analyses involved with that, in terms of their effectiveness, and all kinds of field observations are going to be done with that. So that's that in a nutshell is kind of what we're working on, that particular endeavor to determine if any, I hope, and I'm anticipating something positive coming out of this to pursue. So that's that's really all I have to report. But Dr. Franz is going to get into much more detail
Okay.
about the research that he's going to be performing for State Highway Administration.
Okay, Peter, I want to thank you for giving us that intro. It's going to really serve as a segue to what I want to do next, and then go to Mr. Franz, Dr. Franz, because I think it will be appropriate. We have a special guest here tonight that is going to give us a human side of Any Head Highway through a poem, a written poem that was constructed by, actually, of all persons, my sister-in-law. I'm going to turn over things to my wife, Reverend Tierney, to introduce her properly. But here's where we're going with things tonight, audience. And here's what I want you to understand. Any Head Highway, it's just not a data point of fatality numbers, accidents, crashes, infrastructure changes, those types of things that we put on paper. Any Head Highway represents, unfortunately, a devastating road that has entered into many, many, many lives, unfortunately, in a negative way. I've always taken time to report the devastating numbers of those who have been lost. I think 15 years is 89 people now is the latest. 10 people lost last year alone. These are many human beings whose lives have been disrupted by this highway. It's not that we don't want to make better. It's just there are many obstacles in pursuit of that goal. What Dr. Franz is going to give us tonight is a picture of the future of what we are trying, what's being done, and this committee is a part of trying to get that future instigated in terms in quick fashion, in urgent fashion, to make better on this highway for each and every one of us in this community. But when I get into this poem, when you're going to hear here shortly, it really gives a human side of the readout of a person who actually lived on Indian Highway themselves. My sister-in-law lived on the highway, or adjacent to the highway, I should say. And her take on how it affects her in terms of how she has written this poem, how you receive it, how you can interpret it yourself for the things that you know personally, how it has affected you, your neighbors, and all the components that are surrounding this highway and all of its notoriety. It has a distinction that has left imprints on many lives. And so she's going to give her take on how, in her poetic way of reporting this. And I just like for you to be able, each one on this call, to be able to absorb what she has to give out of her spirit, out of her interpretation of Indian Head Highway. And then after that, we'll go to Dr. Franz to kind of report on what we're trying to do to make better this highway for our future, for each and every one of us, for a more safe, civil, and secure highway for each of us. First of all, I'm going to turn over to Reverend Tierney, and you can probably introduce your sister, and I'll give it to you, and then you can go from there with the reading of the poem.
Good evening, everyone. Without further ado, I introduce you to Tina Smith. She is a poet, songwriter, and she's inspired from the heart. Tina Smith, thank you.
Thank you so much, my dear sister, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you also, Reverend Dr. Robert Screen, for inviting me here to speak to these wonderful people today. As Bobby mentioned, my husband, myself, and my 3 young children used to live on Indian Highway in one of the apartment complexes there, which happened to be directly across the street from a nice little market, a little country market. And every day I went downtown to work, well, 5 days a week. And I was frightened because I was afraid one day the children would try to cross that highway and get some treats or something. And, it wouldn't be a good thing for them to do, but you know how kids are. So we moved from there finally to a safer neighborhood, and I'm so relieved. However, when I thought about the endeavor that you guys are undertaking, I jotted down a few of my thoughts, which turned into a poem that's entitled, Who's Knocking? Who's knocking and knocking, trying to get in? Trying to increase your awareness, trying to make a difference. Who's knocking on your conscience, trying to get your attention? It's the one you never met and never want to mention. The one you heard of, but hurried to forget. As soon as the current news was done, the niceties flew away like a dove. There's no love shown to anyone seeking justice and stiffer laws. Who's knocking on your conscience, trying to get your attention? The ones we call victim when the homicide was committed. It was labeled an accident, although someone intentionally exceeded the speed limit. We send condolences for a minute, but that doesn't scratch the surface to help with the grief that has never ended. Who's knocking on your conscience, trying to get your attention? It's the ghost of lost hopes. Many unfulfilled dreams, plans snuffed out and crying to the horrifying sounds of glass breaking and loud sirens screeching. Breathless and unable to move or speak, a precious life is abruptly aborted because another violent death occurred that could and should have been avoided. Senseless tragedies happen on 210 regularly, while the world sips its daily cup of morning coffee and turns a deaf ear to the cries of grief-stricken families. Community activists beg everyone to take actions to attempt to stop this madness. actions that might force people to be more careful or at a minimum be held more accountable. And the cold-hearted legislators who haven't lost anyone to that dangerous street are too removed from reality to take the issue of safety seriously. The quest for stiffer laws and penalties don't make them lose any sleep. And if it never hits home for them, they'll never see the need to change a thing. So, to answer your question, I know who's knocking on your conscience. It's the danger that is lurking like a thief in the night, waiting to take another life. More and more and more lives, time after time after time. But you know what? There's another question that should be on your mind before that moment arrives. Will it be you in the news or someone you love next time? Signed by the victims of Route 210. My friends, please open your hearts to this noble cause and let's come together to make things better. After all, if not now, then when? When will you give this some serious consideration and take appropriate action? Knock, knock, knock. Do you know who's knocking on your hearts today? I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's an emotional subject for me. God bless you all for all your hard work and efforts and everything you have done to join together to make things better. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Latina Smith, for that heart-wrenching but heart-spoken poem. I leave it to each one of you how you want to ingest that. But that has been the signature of what each of us has had to deal with that lives in this Indian Head Highway community. My wife and I have lived here 45 years on this Indian Head Highway community. It's almost half a century. We've seen the devastation. We've seen up close the lost lives. For the near 5 years I served as a chaplain at the local hospital, I saw up close and personal how families are interrupted. And just a moment notice how things can change at the snap of a finger because someone decided to take laws in their own hand and just really disregard the law. And in a trivial and cavalier fashion, just go as fast as they want. But in the meantime, not expecting to hit anyone, but that's always the case with an accident happens when you're not expecting it. Ms. Latina, thank you so much for that poem. I think each one of us can internalize it in our own personal way. I like to use that poem as a segue to go into what I pray will be a better future by the steps taken by people like in the State Highway Administration and Mr. Mark France from the University of Maryland, and what he has to offer as possible solution initiative that is designed to get people to slow down, to get people to be more conscientious about their driving habits, and in a nutshell, become more conscious safety-wise. So, Mr. France, I turn it over to you for what you have from the University of Maryland, the studies you're doing, the initiation you're about to embark upon Indian Head Highway. And I'll give you the platform to tell us what you have.
Well, thank you, Reverend Screen, for the opportunity to join the meeting today and to present. I was scheduled to meet last month, and I apologize I had to cancel because of an illness, but I'm excited to be here and to get you up to speed on a study that our lab at the University of Maryland is conducting on behalf of the Maryland Department of Transportation. Is it possible to give permissions to share my screen? I do have a PowerPoint that I could.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. It's saying that that it's disabled, the screen sharing. Are you able to give me permission for that? Oh, there.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, nope, still not working.
Oh.
So I think if you go to the participants tab and you open that up, then there's a button with 3 dots on it. You should be able to click that and you can make me a co-host, I think.
Go to the participant tab, okay?
Yeah.
And
Then when you hover over a person's name, I think you should see like a button with 3 dotted horizontal lines. And it should give you the ability to make me a co-host.
trying to find it. Here we go.
Go to the top of his picture.
Ah,
Hover over his
I'm at the
picture.
wrong place. Okay,
Hover over his picture and those 3 dots.
yes. Make. So if I make him co-host, will he be able to share his screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Can you do it now, Mark?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Can you all see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a project. There was a call for proposals by the Maryland DOT that was kind of open to universities within the state to apply for. And our lab, CAT lab, stands for the Center for Advanced Transportation Technology Laboratory. We're in the Civil Environmental Engineering Department at University of Maryland College Park. And we were very grateful to be awarded this project, very important and timely project that we're going to be working on in conjunction with Peter and his team. So what I'll do today, this project is fairly new. We started back in April, so we're only a couple of months into the project, but so it's mostly an overview of what we're planning to do in this project. And then, you know, like Reverend Screen was saying, the potential for a better future with this. And I think our lab in coordination with Maryland DOT can help make this road safer and then move to other roads within the state and Prince George's County. So in my presentation today, I'll go over some of the objectives of our project. I'll quickly just let you know about the tasks and the schedule that we're adhering to. It's an 18-month project. I'll kind of quickly go over some of the technical research tasks and how we're going to be tackling this before and after study for the countermeasures that Peter had mentioned. And then briefly mention how we are going to help train Maryland DOT folks, as well as anyone else who's interested in how to conduct these types of studies. Jump into the objectives here. So our first objective is to do a comprehensive literature review, and it's similar to what Peter had mentioned. So we're going to comb the literature to see what countermeasures out there have worked in similar scenarios. It'll actually be on an international basis, not just within the United States. So that we can discover how other people are dealing with roads with excessive speeding problems, where you've tried several other common countermeasures like enforcement and a few others that Peter had let us know when we had a kickoff meeting that had some effectiveness, but it's still not getting us to the level of safety that we want. So that's sort of what the main work so far on this project is done. We're working on drafting a literature review that summarizes all of those findings. Our second task is to explore both traditional and non-traditional data sources. So when we do traffic safety studies, the normal things that you would think of when you have speed measurements, that's always a good starting point. Crashes, in the whole scheme of things though, crashes are considered pretty rare events. So sometimes understanding the true safety, you have to look a little bit deeper into the data, things like speed variance. If people are driving at different speeds, they're changing lanes, they're following too close, and those can also lead to crashes. Within our proposal, we have partnered with a data provider. You've probably heard of them before, Michelin, the same people that make the tires, and so they're actually working with insurance companies to collect data from people's cell phones as they're driving, and they'll get event data. So if someone is over speeding, or if they're handling their phone when they're driving, or they're rapidly accelerating or decelerating, it's kind of archiving all of those events, and they'll be sending those to us. And our idea there is to get 6 months before the installation of the countermeasures that Peter mentioned, and then 6 months after, and then do an analysis to see how much change there were in things like, not only crashes and speeding, but also the rapid accelerations and decelerations, all those, we call those surrogate measures of safety in the transportation engineering realm. So that's what we'll be doing with that data. So both, like I said, a combination of this newer data and then the traditional data that we're working with Maryland DOT to get access to. We're then going to develop a framework to analyze that data. So there's going to be several different, what we call performance measures, to see how they're changing before and after the installation. They'll go ahead and apply that framework to these installations on Maryland 210, and then make recommendations on how effective they were. If there's other things to consider in the future phases of this project to keep increasing the safety. And then we're also going to be developing a plan to ensure that we transfer this knowledge to Maryland DOT and anybody else who might be interested. I think working with you all in the Indian Head Highway Area Action Committee will also be beneficial to stay in touch with you guys. I think an outreach component of this is going to be important to let the public know about this problem and what they can do to help mitigate the safety issues. I'll kind of quickly just show you, this is just a calendar of our tasks. There's a total of 8 of them. Some of them are, just doing your traditional deliverables for a project, like the final project and quarterly reports. And I talked a little bit about our plan here. We're currently doing the literature review, and we're working on some of the data that we already have access to. Some of the speed data, we have a collect speed on just about every road in the state of Maryland at our lab, and I'll show you an example of that. You may have seen it before. Then we'll do the actual analysis and then conduct or make recommendations based on that. So it's an 18-month project. We're about 2 months into it. It's due to wrap in the end of November of 2024. But I'm happy to check in with you guys either on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on your preference there. I'm happy to keep you up to speed on where we're at with this project.
Absolutely.
So just focusing a little bit to give you a highlight of where we're working, the kind of technical tasks that we're working on. Literature review, then we have this data exploration and the development of the performance measures, then conducting before and after study, and then establish the recommendations. So you guys are probably aware of this. When we wrote our proposal, we were combing the literature and found that there's a pretty standard way to categorize and present not just for safety, but for any transportation countermeasure type of analysis. You can break them down into different categories, and you guys have already been using some of these. So we have the engineering solutions in this project with what Peter had described with the flex post and making the lane widths a little bit more narrow are considered engineering type solutions or countermeasures. There's also technology. The automated speed enforcement would fall into this category. But there's other ones like automatic braking systems when you talk about connected and automated vehicles, which is not quite appropriate for this road just yet, but intelligent transportation systems, the enforcement. So there's automated and regular and police enforcement. We have education and outreach, and then also planning and policy. And I've been in communication with Mr. Ron Weiss, who I think is on the call, and he's been keeping me up to speed on the initiatives within the policy and planning part of things, trying to get the local legislators to become aware of this and pass some legislation so that we can have steeper fines for people that are violating the speeds in an excessive manner. So I won't go through this in great detail, but this is all of the data that we're considering bringing in for our analysis. So I mentioned all this data from the Michelin company, and that's kind of a new cutting edge data set that's, I don't think, has been used very much, not within my lab and probably not within Maryland DOT. But then we're also going to bring in other supplemental information like sociodemographics, US Census and the American Community Survey to know more about the people's backgrounds that live around this area, but also the origins and destinations of trips that use Maryland 210. So we're actually getting that data as well. So they'll get traces of vehicles that use this road segment, and they're going to let us know what the origin and destination. So why is that important? Yes, it's very important to do outreach, I think, in the immediate area of the roadway, because people that live there are going to be using Maryland 210 and almost on a daily basis. But there also are people that don't live locally that might be using this road. And that information might give us some good insights on where we can do additional targeted outreach for the safety issue on Maryland 210. We're also going to look at land use data, if it's commercial, residential, agricultural, down toward the southern part of Maryland 210. We have data from a company called INRIX, and it's probe data. That's basically from cell phones and GPS systems. And every single minute we get a speed and travel time reading on, I think there's 125 individual segments that will get a speed and time, travel time reading on Maryland 210. We also have the crash data, working with state police there. And we have radar weather data so that we can tie that in to see if, when it's raining or snowing, does that make the conditions even less safe? So this is actually a screenshot of a kind of rapid response ask that Ron had for us a few weeks before the proposal was actually due. We looked at some of this XD probe data and found, he was looking for some recommendations, data-based recommendations on where they may place these 3 new automated enforcement cameras to, optimize the safety situation. So we looked at both directions of travel, both northbound and southbound, and then used the probe data to say, like, what % of the time were the speeds above the posted speed limit of 55 miles per hour, and made our recommendations based on that data. So we'll continue to use that data for our study. Happy to take questions on it at some point. I know that we're short on time today, but that was just a sample of what we did in the past. This is a map of the countermeasures that Peter had mentioned. So they're going to be installing the flex posts south of Pine Lane to Manning Road. They're going to be putting in quick curb with flex posts 300 feet south of South Pine Drive to 200 feet north of Pine Drive, and then quick curb with flat panels 100 feet south of Livingston Road to Independence Road, 3,000 feet north of the intersection. And then they're also considering within the same general region doing lane narrowing from, I think it's currently 12 feet down to 11 feet to get people to slow down a little bit more. We've read the literature before. All these are effective ways of bringing the speeds down. Will this help with these excessive speeders that are going 130, 150 miles an hour? We'll have to see that. I think that'll be a challenge for us to take a look at. So once we get these countermeasures installed is when my team will actually start digging more deeply into the data to do the analysis of before and after. So as I mentioned, we're going to be looking most likely 6 months before they do the installation, which I believe is targeted for the end of the summer, August, September. That's subject to change, obviously. And then 6 months after, we're going to use this data and see, from a statistical perspective, are the number of harsh braking and rapid acceleration events going down? or the number of crashes going down? Is the speed variance going down? All these surrogate measures, and we're going to compare each of them before and after to see, what's happening there and how effective these countermeasures are in controlling the speeding problem. So one question I had here, and my signal cut off, so I may have missed it when we were talking to the officer from District 7. We've been trying to track down and get access to the raw automated speed enforcement camera data so that we can take a look at it. It seems like there's been some issues with data quality, but we sent out a couple emails and haven't gotten a response from the Prince George's County folks yet. So any recommendations or assistance that you could give us on tracking down that data or talking to the data vendor would be much appreciated. And then after we do our study, it'll give us some insights on giving recommendations on how to do this type of analysis, general safety analysis. It doesn't have to be necessarily just for speeding, so that this could be taken to other sites in the state of Maryland and applied and hopefully help the safety issue on a wider scale. And then eventually we'll, at the end of the project, be doing some implementation plan and training so that Maryland DOT and their partners can carry this work forward. We're happy to stay on board if there's additional funding in the future. We're hoping that we can help out with that. What our lab typically does with these projects is we develop a prototype of an online tool that automatically brings in the data so that with a few clicks of a mouse, you could say, okay, what was my safety performance metrics for this month or this week or this year? And it would automatically generate like a report and some visualizations. So we won't do that as part of this project. The budget and the time to do it isn't enough to carry that out, but we'll lay out sort of a framework, a plan on how we could do that. And that might lead on to, future projects and discussions. So that concludes sort of my high level summary of our project and what we're aiming to do. I do appreciate the time and opportunity to come talk with you all. I'd like to stay involved with this meeting if you don't mind, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments that you all may have.
Okay. Well, let me say, Mark, I'm really impressed with the overall package. I would like to just personally like to have you no less than in a quarterly reporting period, but I'll bring this up with our committee and committee members and also input from our audience. How often, would all of us like to see you come in to give your reporting, without a doubt, putting the technological slant to, the analysis of what's happening, where it's happening, where improvement can take place. Those types of things. We all need to know that. And it looks like your program is just enhanced to give us a full package and array of just that very types of things. So we appreciate everything you're going to bring to us here in this community. We need it all, believe me. And I know it's all going to come to a good end. I know there was a number of questions before you came on board. So what I'm going to do is I want to go back to the questions we had prior. I think it was Tamara and I think a few others. Forgive me if I've forgotten some of the names of those who had questions, but I want to get right directly back to your presentation, Mark, as well. But I do want to be dutiful to those who've been waiting for a while to get their question in, and then we're certainly going to open up from this point to a closure for all the questions that are directed to you and the other things that have been said. So I think we have Ms. Tamara Davis Brown before me right now. To Tamara, you can go ahead and present your question and we'll go from there.
Actually, I do not have any questions. I had communicated with Lieutenant Ferguson in the chat. It was about whether or not there was some type of collaboration with Maryland State Police. I know that we have MOU in place, but I know we've had a little bit of success under prior to Major Mitchell coming on board. But having a little bit of success. And I was just wondering if there was any collab, and he confirmed that it was not. So no question, but excellent presentation from Mr. France. And I do support Ron Weiss's suggestion in the chat that we have him to give us a monthly report on his study. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments from Mr. France or anything else that was presented? Mr. Dwayne Bowie, and then Joseph Trevini.
I think Mr. Trapani was before me.
Yeah,
Go
yes,
for
he
it.
was. Mr. Trevini. Joseph, you go ahead.
Thank you, Reverend Doctor. My question is for Lieutenant Ferguson. Lieutenant, as of July 1st, Maryland has legalized the recreational use of marijuana. My question is, are the county traffic enforcement prepared, or what steps additionally will they use to enforce impaired driving under marijuana?
That's a very good question. When you get a chance, email my Major Mitchell, and he'll let you know what SOD is doing about that. We're
Okay,
not SOD, we are patrol.
Not your
it's a
job,
division.
not your job, right?
No, it's not that. It's all of our jobs. And it's a very good question, but there are better people better prepared to answer something like that. So I would suggest email my Major or Captain Martini or Acting Captain Ruiz. They are in the know on that.
All right.
They know a
thank
lot
you.
more information about our Special Operations Division, which handles what you're talking about.
All right, thank you, sir.
Nah, no problem, no problem.
Okay, good question and good response. Okay, Mr. Bowie, I think you had your hand up.
Sure. Mr. France, thank you very much for the presentation. A lot of great statistical information we're looking forward to. The question I have maybe for you and maybe the group at large, does this push the statistical information you'll receive, does this push the needle for, that our state representatives will vote for increased fines for our highway? It's like our Representative Valderrama, if they went to state legislature, to get higher fines, etc. And it looks like you're, doing a great, excellent, really PhD work in regards to, hey, we're showing and demonstrating that, the speeds are happening here, but will, representatives from Calvert County, St. Mary's County say, I could care less about the stats and still vote no on higher fines? That's kind of the concern I have.
Yeah, I think that those are fair concerns. And, that's kind of the policy political side of this. I think that enforcement certainly needs to be a component of the solution here, but that by itself is not the long-term solution. In terms of how effective will this be in terms of convincing other elected officials to recognize the problem, I can't speak for their perspective on this, but I think the more evidence that we're able to gather to illustrate the severity of the problem here can only help. The challenge is, I think, sometimes for an academic professional like myself, communicating that to citizens and elected officials who don't have the technical background that I do. I do have some experience in doing that. And I think working with you guys as well, having dry runs of presentation of my results to you guys so that we can effectively communicate it to others, I think will give us a fighting chance to get more attention turned to the safety issue here.
If I may, this is Peter Campanides. To add to what Dr. France had mentioned, I believe with Delegate Valderrama and your newest representative, I apologize for not remembering her name. There appears to be a willingness to work with all of you on speaking with their counterparts in these counties, Calvert, St. Mary's, Charles counties, and try to work on something that would, move the needle toward getting the law passed. I think it's my advice to all of you who have been working closely with your legislators is to continue working with them between sessions in order to be able to put yourselves in a better position. So I think the data that Dr. Franz will be collecting will certainly be helpful. If we can get the cameras working and getting that data to all of you to show justify the position where all of you are on this and the speeding situation. I think that will put the team in a good position to make a solid case for getting that bill passed. So just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I think we have a question from Ms. D. Anderson. Ms. Anderson, you go
Yes.
ahead and present your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I guess some of them were already answered. One of the questions I had for Mr. Francis, could you, when you were looking at your task 4 PowerPoint, I noticed, are these measures that are going to happen, or are these suggestions, like you mentioned, installations of flex posts, quick curb, flat panels, that page that you were showing us? I just wanted to get some clarity. Is this the ideas, or are these things that are actually going to happen for sure?
I can let Peter speak to that. My understanding is those countermeasures will be installed toward the end of this summer.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if there's others that are being considered, but that's sort of the framework for our study, is to look at the effectiveness of those particular countermeasures.
So
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
if just to kind of complete the thought there. So yes, our intention is to focus on the 4-lane section, because that is the simplest cross section with which to implement the treatments that we're proposing. It's much more difficult to implement something like that on the 6-lane divided section. And so we would have to look at other treatments to if there are any treatments for that matter to handle the 6-lane divided section. But this one, the 4-lane divided section, made it fairly simple to have something on both the yellow and the white edge lines, and to create what I've been mentioning, well, I'm trying to create a tunnel effect is what I'm trying to do. And what I've noticed is that when motorists are entering a tunnel, they tend to drive slower, because it's more, it gives the feeling of being more constrained. So by setting this, I'll call it a system in place, what I'm anticipating will happen is that we would be conditioning motorists to drive close to the posted speed limit. This is the only section that I'm looking at. This is, and because this is this type of treatment on this type of roadway, to my knowledge, has not been done. So this is truly a test case, which makes this research project that much more important in terms of determining the effectiveness of it. And if it is effective, considering using this type of treatment in other locations, at least within the county, if not statewide.
Okay, thank you for that, because I know there's
Okay.
a concern in merge lanes. There have
Yes,
been some flex posts, but there's one, I think it's at 210 and maybe Swan Creek. There's that long merge lane that goes
Yes.
all the way up, and drivers are using that as a speed lane. They're not even
yes.
merging. And
Oh,
that would be
yeah,
helpful to end that merge lane. I don't know why they make it so long, but I think it's because to curb traffic, it was, the intention was good. But yeah, that would be good if they had more those posts, or they may not make the merge lanes so long because they're being abused and not,
yes.
and it sounds unfair for a lot of us because of the traffic, but I'd rather have that and sit in traffic than witness all the crashes and
Yeah,
things.
understood, understood.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
and that is something that's being pursued. So
Okay,
a work order has been sent to our maintenance shop. To their chagrin, they don't, it's not their favorite thing to maintain them, but I will say this, it has been working much more effectively than I could ever imagine it working. So yeah, they're a bit of a maintenance headache, but at the same time, they're doing the job of discouraging motorists from using the shoulders.
Yeah.
Where they have been implemented.
Peter, as a segue to, as you just mentioned about the flex poles, I had a question to come by way of the chat that wanted to know, will the existing flex poles be replaced? They're really getting destroyed or haven't gotten destroyed, and they're looking pretty haggard, I guess, in other places. So will the existing flex poles be replaced, repaired? Well, I'm thinking probably replace is the best answer to
Yeah.
them. But that is a question that all along the highway. Matter of fact, I would like you to extend the flex poles going northbound to the shoulder going towards what is it? Just before the what is the road just before we get to the beltway? I don't know why it escapes me now, but it
Herbie
seems
Hill
that,
Road,
I'm sorry,
Herbie Hill Road.
Palmer Road.
Palmer Road. Yes, Palmer Road.
Palmer Road.
My wife and I were just out with yesterday. And I mean, they were coming down the shoulder, going
Yes.
northbound. I mean, just like, nobody's business. So
Yeah.
that's a place that also needs to have the turn flex poles as well. So, whatever way that I'm hoping that we can extend the flex poles, but also replace the ones as per the question that was asked to you on that matter.
Yes. So the answer is yes, they'll be if they're damaged, they're gonna be replaced.
Okay. We also have a question here from Dr. France from Ron Weiss. Please explain the between the NRIX data and the Michelin data.
Yeah, good question. So the NRIX data is somewhat, I guess you could call it aggregated data. So they have these predefined road segments that are using cell phones, GPS, navigation technologies, and it averages all the vehicles that pass that segment that have these technologies. It's not getting it from all the cars that are out on the road. It's a sample of them. And what it does is it reports the speed and travel time on each individual segment every single minute. So that's what the NRIX data brings. The Michelin data is even more granular, where we're getting these event readings on harsh accelerations and decelerations, phone handling, following too close kind of warning systems. They're coming from individual vehicles. So we think that fusing those two data sources, as well as the others that I've listed there, can hopefully give us some deeper insights on some of the underlying contributing factors to the safety problem. Because if you're speeding and you're handling your phone, or maybe the person is driving down the road and we can't capture their speed, but we're seeing hard accelerations and decelerations, that's an indication of aggressive driving, which is also probably contributing. So that's sort of the angle that we want to take with it. That's the main distinguishing characteristics between the NRIX data and the Michelin data. Hopefully
Okay.
that answers your question.
Yes, I think we have a Ms. Anderson. Is your hand raised again, or are you? Okay, okay.
No, I'm sorry. I was supposed to take it down. I just.
Okay, that's okay. That's quite all right. Brother Ron, did that answer your question regarding the two distinctions between the NREX and mission data?
Yes, yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Other questions, comments? We've had a host of things that have been from, I guess, the human insight and feeling from the poem to the technological spectrum of things for the future in terms of improvement. We've gotten the data of how the cameras, speed cameras are reporting, and the incredible drop from 1 month to the next. So there's a lot out there. I know sometimes you can get overwhelmed with data, but I'm hoping we've been attentive to hear everything that has been stated here tonight. This CAT system in and of itself, I can see that as being nothing less than a pure help aid to Indian Head Highway and giving us the analysis that we need, particularly as we go forth to next year's legislation. Getting that hard data is going to be hard to rebut for those who, for whatever the reasons, find it hard to want to increase the fines and other measures of enforcement, other measures of safety controlling measures that we've been all seeking in this Indian Highway community. So I'm encouraged. I'm really delighted, Dr. Franz, with what you are bringing us in this community. I really am, and I believe each of us can find some reason who care about the happenstance on Indian Head Highway, some reason to be encouraged from what you bring to the table, bring to the community, and hopefully bring the safety measures to a greater height for all of us. Again, I'll just ask, are there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to make before we close out for this evening?
I just wanted to say thanks again for the opportunity, Dr. Screen, and Ron, thanks for introducing me to the group. I look forward to working with you guys over the next few months.
Well,
Thank you.
we're going to be looking forward to working with you.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think we can share your presentation with the people who have the speed camera data and see if that will help pry what you're looking for from them. We'll give it a shot.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I can package this and send it over to you, Ron.
Thank you.
I too want to say thank you, Dr. Franz, for your presentation and your willingness to be a part of this team. And I think it's going to be valuable in the coming months to be able to figure out better ways to handle this animal of Maryland 210. So and I appreciate the heartfelt speech that Reverend Tierney's sister gave. It really hits home.
Yes.
If I could just add, I'd like to make the case to the people from the legislators from South County who pushed back against the speed camera bill to increase fines, that we value all the lives of people who travel on 210. It doesn't matter where they're coming from or where they're going. We want everybody to get to where they want to go safely, and we want them to get home safely. And I'm hard pressed to understand how you can argue against that, but we'll try and ask them to reconsider their position. Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, thank Officer Ferguson for staying on for the entire call.
Yes,
No, it doesn't happen. So him staying on the whole call is really appreciated.
yes, yes. I'd like to ditto that, Lieutenant Ferguson, for staying and hanging with us. You get a sense of, the heartfelt feelings, the passion that's running, some of the frustrations as well, combined. As I say, this committee has been up, it'll be 6 years coming November, God willing, that we've been up and running, and people such as Peter has been with us each and every month, and many of you have been with us each and every month in that time. That's a long time, but it's a drop in the bucket when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish. And we can't return lives that are lost, but we can do something to hopefully extinguish the loss of others in the future. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give a sense of dignity and respect for those whose family have lost people on any highway. We're trying to keep from that family number increasing. And the poem, I think, hit home as to, if we give time to give ourselves thought to what family members, what they carry with them on a daily basis for their loved ones who have been lost on this highway. I think that poem really, if we just allow it to penetrate our heart and just have it, do what it does and just awakening us in our humanity, then we can be more of a cohesive force that we need to be, to knock on the doors of those who are in a position to make the changes. I just want to say this to our audience: please stand ready to be able to be ready to do maybe a letter writing campaign here in the near future, because there are some things that are in motion that we need some doors to open up that have been close to us, to get the type of response and getting, that we all need to better things here on this Indian highway. So I'll just ask you to just stand by for that. We may be calling upon you in the near future for such a campaign. If there be no other, I think Ron Rice, you have your hand up and you wanted to close out.
I just wanted to ask Dr. Franz if the Michelin data, if we have pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists on 210, will that measure, capture their cell data?
No, I don't believe we'll be getting that. Motorcycles possibly, but not the non-motorized modes. We will not be getting that data.
Okay.
Okay, that being said, I want to thank all of you in conclusion. I think this has been an extremely productive and enlightening meeting. I pray that each of you take your time on Indian Highway. Please be safe. Please be aware. Please be conscious of those around you. And we pray to see you again. I think our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 17th. So if you can note that down in your scheduling. And my prayer to each of you and your families: be safe, be sound, and be blessed. And we hope to see you again on the 17th. Amen.
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 Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
This how Instagram zoom it in?